With us now is Texas Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett. He is a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on this holiday week.
Thank you, Brianna.
So,
thank you.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi is still holding on to these articles of impeachment, withholding them right now from the Senate because she wants the trial to be fair, as she puts it, or at least highlighting that it's not, as she thinks. But we've seen Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski say she's actually disturbed by Leader McConnell's pre-trial coordination with the White House. Do you think that Murkowski's dissent could lead to trial conditions that are more palatable for you and other Democrats?
Well, one would hope so. I think it's rather noteworthy that just the fact that one Republican senator says that she might want to hear the evidence before making up her mind is newsworthy. That's what you would expect every juror in the Senate to do, and some were using the reason that they would be a juror as a reason not to comment for the last several months. Senator McConnell, on the other hand, has basically said he doesn't plan to follow his oath to be impartial under the laws and the Constitution. His commitment is to a cover-up. And so Speaker Pelosi, I think, quite rightly said there's no rush here. Indeed, the Senate did not get the articles formally transmitted with the managers until the first week of January during the Clinton proceeding. And so there's not really been any delay so far, but there is a reason to at least think a little bit about whether there will be a fair trial here, or for the first time in American history to have an impeachment trial with no witnesses, which seems to be what McConnell is saying. So I'm pleased that Senator Murkowski spoke up on this. And as far as President Trump's tweets, you know, what permeates them, as best I can tell, is fear. He is always fearful of strong women, but here he's fearful of the truth, that it might come out. The witnesses that have been requested by Senator Schumer are not from out in left field. They're from the people that surround this president, his chief of staff, who said, just get accustomed to this kind of misconduct. And so it's a reasonable request that there be a real trial, not just a set of arguments and a quick vote in the Senate.
I want to ask you about impeachment managers. This is House Republicans, House Democrats send them over for the Senate trial, and the Speaker has not yet selected who she wants to send. Is there something you have in mind for who you would like to see as an impeachment manager? Would you like to see a veteran? Do you think freshman lawmakers should be included? Should they have, you know, trial experience, be a lawyer? Is experience on these relevant committees that have taken part in the investigation essential? What do you think?
Well, I have complete confidence in the Speaker to make that decision. She has said one of the reasons for not rushing this is to understand, are we really having a trial with witnesses called the way a trial occurs in cities and communities all over our country? Or is this just a show where all that the Senate plans to do is rubber stamp whatever President Trump wants? That seems to be what Mr. McConnell has discussed so far, and that type of proceeding may well affect who she would have as our managers. Clearly, Adam Schiff, who's done such a remarkable job that that President Trump is always attacking him. Jerry Nadler also is a clear choice from the Judiciary Committee. But there's so much talent out there. Again, you might adjust depending on the type of proceeding we're about to have. I think it's also noteworthy with Senator Murkowski and the other senators that unlike the normal proceedings in the Senate where Senator McConnell can block consideration of gun safety or equality or voter protection legislation that we passed in the House, here every senator is equal. And so each senator will have to decide, do they want a fair proceeding where witnesses are called, or do they only want to rubber stamp the White House? And I think each of those senators will be held accountable depending on what they decide about that. I think the only thing more outrageous these days in Washington than President Trump and his fearful tweets are those Republicans who've enabled him to do this and to take a little more freedom and a little more freedom until we have a tyranny here if he is not restrained.
Is there a sort of a shelf life on Speaker Pelosi withholding the articles of impeachment from the Senate? Is time up at a certain point here?
I don't think there really is. I don't expect to see her hold them indefinitely, but at least one significant legal scholar within the last year, I think probably more than one, has suggested that if there's not to be a fair trial in the Senate, there's no need to send them at all. I expect something will get resolved and they will be sent. I hope that what we have is a fair proceeding where witnesses are called and we can get the truth out to the American people. They may well be the ultimate jurors, and they're entitled to hear all of the evidence.
But you think she's going to send them?
I would expect that she probably will send them in coming weeks. You know, one other advantage of the fact they're not going there the minute the Senate comes back is that it removes any excuse the Senate has on the very important United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement that we approved by
But I
an
just
overwhelming majority.
I want to ask you about the timing of the articles, because we just talked
Sure.
with Senator Blumenthal. You may have heard this. You know,
I did.
he's eyeing the beginning of January, but you're not saying the beginning of January. You're not committing really to a
Well,
timeline.
I don't.
Do you disagree with that
I don't know
timeline?
that it will be. I don't know that it will be the first week of January. We come back on the night of January the 7th, and all I'm saying is there's an advantage because the Senate can take up other important business first, still get to this in January. Again, if all they envision is doing whatever the White House wants to suppress all the evidence and just hear a couple hours of argument, that can be wrapped up very quickly in January. I hope and believe that the American people deserve more than that kind of kangaroo court that just rubber stamps what Trump wants, which is to hide all the evidence and cover up his abuse.
Congressman Lloyd Doggett, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.